Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We're dealing with a bit of sound outside, but as you can see, I've got a bellowing voice, so it won't be a problem. I would do suggest our audio team is very, very experienced. I've worked with them before. This is a great session because we were chatting in the green room and in the back of the room as well about what is underway in the energy sector itself. I've covered energy for 30 years, and I've never seen such a profound shift in attitudes to where demand's coming from. So we have like a two-sided coin here. Number one, you see the major technology companies in the hunt for energy, particularly Amazon, Google, Microsoft have been looking at nuclear supplies, small modular reactors as well. And the other side of the coin is what AI does for industry in terms of efficiency and also looking in terms of exploration, how to do it with the lowest emissions as well. What's the potential of it? And that's what we're exploring here in the hydrocarbon space, in the nuclear space, in the renewable space. What does AI offer energy? I have an excellent panel. The names are not on the board, so I'll introduce each one of you. Nomi Ahmad is the President and CEO of Financial Services for GE Vernova. Fahad Dhubaib is the Senior Vice President, Strategy and Market Analysis, of course, at Aramco. Rebecca Minguela is the founder and CEO of Clarity AI. And Dr. Angela Wilkinson is the CEO and Secretary General of the World Energy Council. Let's give them a nice welcome to the session, number one. Thank you very much. Nomi, if I can, I just want to go through the first two rounds of asking specific questions, but I wanted to open up to the panel because we have 35 minutes to feel free to follow up on an idea that you like or disagree with so we can get to the heart of the conversation. I talked about the two-sided coin here. There is demand coming, and in such a profound way in the last 5 months that major tech companies are investing in their own energy supplies. But what does AI offer the energy sector in your view, and how much is demand going to surge? I've seen expectations of 25, 26% by the end of the decade. Do you want to take it from there?
Right, so I think there's three key areas. I'll just keep it really simple. Man, machine, nature. These are the three areas for the power sector. How we do things better and more efficiently, which were manual processes. How we look at running our machines more optimally, more cost effectively, preventive maintenance moving to predictive maintenance, stuff of the sort. And particularly in the energy sector where we are moving very heavily into renewables, how we look at balancing a system which is increasingly intermittent, and how do we apply AI to be able to predict what's going to happen in the next 15 minutes or the next half hour or the next day so that the energy systems can all be ready and safely and reliably keep the lights on without any flicker.
Good. How much has that been affected in your view, as a quick follow-up to you, in terms of disruption? We have Russia, Ukraine, we have unsettling nature between Israel, Gaza, the wider region. Even shipping lanes have been hit. So it's complex because you're bringing in super high demand when we went through an energy crisis 3 years ago. It's complex, is it not?
It is. But I think when we look at the sector, which is a very long-term view, these are temporal disruptions. So war, take Ukraine, for example, take what's happening in the Middle East. At some point, these wars will end, and there will be a quick surge back up. So where missing time has been lost,
yes,
there will be a recovery. So we look at a long-term view across all of the markets to look at how demand is increasing, both from continued electrification and from the decarbonization. It's a double-edged sword that's adding to this demand growth.
Because of the decarbonization pace of it now. Fahad, you can approach this from a strategy for Aramco, but the market analysis of demand as well. So have you broken down how the industry of oil and gas can benefit from AI? Do you want to cover that first? And there's been early experiments within Aramco, and if my numbers are correct, it's 8% efficiency in the early stages of it. Do you want to pick it up there?
Thank you, John. Well, oil and gas companies are big producers and users of data. In Aramco's case, we have two sets of data. You have the core operation data, production, extraction, seismic studies, in addition to the HR and finance and what have you. And for a company at the scale of Aramco, up to $12 million of barrels of oil, the gas production, the integration with chemicals and refining, and the heavy KPI culture in the company, you find yourself with a huge amount of data that is sometimes in silos. So data is there, and the true competitive advantage for companies hinges on three things around data. Number one, how is data structured within your company and the access and retrieval to data. Number two, the computational power you have. And Aramco has a huge computational power because of our huge applications. And the third is your ability to transfer your physical data into digital data, whether it's satellite images or sensors or reserves. So in Aramco, our focus on reserves and simulation predates the discussion of AI. Over the many years and through the seismic studies, we were able to better understand our biggest assets, which are the reserves. And with the advancement of AI and access to stronger computer power, you find yourself with the ability to do much more than what you have been doing. So predictive...
Already you can see the change then.
Absolutely. Predictive analysis improves. Your ability to real-time decision-making is enhanced. And to integrate all of these silos that are found typically in many organizations. I can talk about two examples that are helping the company improve its carbon footprint, reduce its already low cost of production, and enhance a lot of the efficiency, especially reliability. So drilling is one of the big and expensive processes in any energy company. And it's very data intensive. The starting point is your exploration work. It reveals a lot of data that can help you understand the subsurface geography and then maneuver your drills in a smart way to extract oil. With the advancement of AI, we are able now to improve our efficiency in drilling. The time to extract is reduced by 30%, and your ability to enhance recovery is up to 15%. This is sizable for a company like Aramco, and not every company is in the advantage of leveraging such technology without the three pillars: access to data, computing power, and moving your assets from physical to digital. The other model we have relates to reliability. Aramco takes pride in having 99% plus reliability. It's important to continue the global energy system. And we have a center in Dhahran that monitors 50,000 rotating equipment that are critical to our operation. And the data we used to get through the sensors used to be heat and vibration, and they can help us predict when will an equipment fail, and accordingly even maintain it or take care of that issue before it rises. Because of AI, we're able to add the acoustics of these equipment, and now our ability to predict failure is enhanced by 99% because of the sounds of machines that you can use from a baseline to predict when will the equipment fail. All of these are just at the beginning of the oil and gas leveraging all of that technology. And I believe in the next few years, we will be seeing a lot of these improvements and the benefits for oil and gas companies.
Good. I'm going to take the title of your company, Clarity AI, Rebecca, to see what AI offers the industry itself, but there's the other side of the coin in your case. You're saying what investors or what policymakers should know what's coming out of the energy sector itself, predictability of demand, efficiencies, carbon emissions. What does AI offer in that respect? Do you think it will open our eyes to the world of energy in a more intrinsic way?
Yeah, so what we focus on at Clarity AI is the use of AI technologies, not just Gen AI, because I know it's very trendy these days, but we have been doing AI for 8 years now, to help investors and companies measuring sustainability specifically, and the social and environmental impact. Of course, that for the energy sector is critical, and more so, with the increase in demand expected within the next few years. And the way that we use AI is for estimating data that is not available, even though, as Fahad was saying, there is a lot of data available. You need to structure the data, clean the data, check the reliability of that data, but still even basic information is not reported by companies. In many cases, not because they don't have the data to do the reporting, but because they don't have it structured in the right way. So anything that the human was supposed to be doing, usually through consultants once per year, now you can do it on an ongoing basis with algorithms. Actually, we had an interesting conversation with a colleague of Fahad at Saudi Aramco, talking about how can you develop algorithms, AI algorithms to do attribution of upstream, downstream, new energy, so you can understand where the emissions can be optimized in the more efficient way.
Very
And that's just one of multiple. Multiple
Yeah,
applications.
it's amazing how fast it's being adopted. I also think we in the panel we should give thought to, if there's a developing world and you have the developed or the major players like an Aramco proceeding, how do the NOCs of the world or these developing countries not miss out on AI? I'll come back to it, but just give it some thought, please. Angela, we're getting you fresh off of the Belt and Road Initiative, or Belt and Road Summit in China. And we know how well China plans now for the transition and its demand, of course. But what are the key takeaways that you learned on AI and energy with China specifically, would you say?
So yesterday when His Royal Highness gave his talk about the transition in Saudi Arabia, he made a little quip. He said, of course, we all look small compared to China.
Yes.
So I was visiting State Grid, China State Grid Corporation, and they showed me their new energy cloud platform. So China has already built a virtual digital twin of its entire energy system. And the energy cloud, they did that last year. This year, what they've done is they have added the demand side to the platform. So I think the biggest transformational potential we will see is that AI is going to make energy demand and use much more visible. And I think demand-side dynamics are going to fundamentally change the way we think about the energy transition.
Interesting. I'd like to get you and Fahad to address those who have been in energy for a long time. And Naomi and Rebecca, please feel free to weigh in. But I was saying in my opening remarks, in the last 5 or 6 months, people woke up to the fact that demand's going to surge. And so much, so you have technology companies making, multi-billion-dollar bets on getting supplies. Have you ever seen anything like it? And are we underestimating how much demand there's going to be? Do you want to start, Angela? And feel free to jump. You're in market and analysis. I'm sure you're looking at it.
Absolutely.
Well, there's lots of drivers of demand. Digitalization, computation, driver of demand. Development, you can't stop the desire for development. But we're also seeing some flatlining. There's flatlining on electricity demand in Europe. And that's a cost of living crisis or maybe some other things. So demand isn't driven everywhere. In the short term, there's very, very different patterns coming on. But demand growth, for sure, is going to happen for decades to come. If only because, as I understand it, Bitcoin mining today uses the equivalent energy of many small countries. Singapore has been surpassed by Bitcoin mining. That's a lot of space to create an energy system.
Good. How about yourself, Fahad? What's the early indications
So
here?
if we were having this discussion a year ago, expectations were much less than what it is today. To put things in perspective, a Google search uses 1 unit of energy, ChatGPT uses 10 units of energy, and the video AI uses 10,000 units of energy. And as the applications of AI grow and the more use cases we see, we saw estimates for energy demand by AI to grow from the current 1% to 8% by 2030. This is equivalent to the energy demand of India today.
Wow.
It is expected to be much bigger than many people anticipated earlier. And this brings up the point of what's the source of that energy? Is it coal? Is it renewable? And that will shape the energy transition as well. In Aramco, given our geographical location of intensity of the sun and renewable, in addition to the hydrocarbon base, specifically gas, we believe that there is a competitive advantage here. So what we're doing, we're going beyond that in Aramco and looking at energy efficient algorithms as a means of prioritizing what application to use. So in doing the benefit cost analysis of any use case of AI, we take the energy efficiency of algorithms into consideration as a means of driving sustainability beyond our core operation into this new and promising sector from an energy point of view.
Good. Rebecca, do you think we're overstating how fast AI will grow and how pervasive it'll be? What's your view from Clarity AI standpoint?
Well, our view is that it's going to be a very fast adoption, but still probably uneven across countries, which we need to be keeping an eye on, and also across industries, right? One of the things that we are helping investors to do with our algorithms is also understanding the social and environmental impact of that revolution, right? And how that is going to be affecting the various companies, the various industries across the different countries, right? So the importance of having specific plans as soon as possible by companies, but also by governments, to make sure that they adopt it as fast as possible and as evenly as possible across industries is super important. And of course, in the energy sector, the optimization algorithms on energy are going to be one of the biggest things that we see growing.
Okay, Nomi, you've, as GE Vernova, have deployed, what, $25 billion into both developed and developing countries on trying to accelerate the transition. I brought up this idea, I'm not crazy about the moniker of the global south, but the developing world. I mean, this could be a major juncture where the developing world, which is struggling to get access to energy, we've talked about this, 600 million in Africa that don't have access to any energy, right? It's nearly 770 worldwide that don't have access. Could this be the breaking point and the wedge between the developed and the developing?
Look, I think there's one example of in the recent past which is somewhat relevant to how we see these revolutionary things take place, and that's cellular. If you look at how countries in emerging markets just skipped landlines.
They just left right over.
They just leapt right over, and they went straight to digital. They went straight to cell phones, and that gave rise to smartphones and usage and what have you. I think you've got the makings of the potential for similar in the developing world. But I think that's a day 2, day 3 thing. In most of the developing world, we're still looking to address the basic connectivity, reliable power. And I think the first challenge there is how do you get clean, efficient, environmentally friendly power that just keeps the light bulbs on, as opposed to saying, okay, now we need a data center in Bangladesh, for example. So I think that time will come, but I think we got to address the fundamentals first. And you know, to the point about where we see this AI-driven demand surging, I think it is in the greater north, as we call it. We see this in the United States, we see this in Europe, we see this in Asia, we see this in the Middle East. And I think that trend is going to follow in the emerging markets, but there is such a huge overhang in these markets. We hear numbers like, you know, there were some targets on growth driven by AI data centers. These are the half a dozen hyperscalers. And the recent numbers we saw was a 60 gigawatt increase globally of power driven by AI hyperscalers.
Well, what timeline would you say?
2030.
2030. That's incredible,
Right?
actually.
And that's why you see that the hunt by these hyperscalers for power. They're going out to nuclear. They're going out to get any electrons they can get from renewables. And by the way, all of this is putting to stress the whole transmission and distribution system. How do you connect? How do you get power?
How do you modernize your grids?
How do you modernize your grid?
Right.
And how does AI play a role in actually digitizing and monetizing and modernizing your grids?
Good. It's like a pause in the debate, but I'd like to get your thoughts on the developing world, because I know Aramco's saying even our expectations for net zero to 2050 don't account for this growth in AI demand, and that Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia don't develop from where they are today. Do we have to be more honest about the debate of both demand from AI and the growth from the developing world?
So I think the growth from AI will not only come from the availability of energy, the quality of institutions and access to data is paramount. There is no point in having the chips and the energy if the data is not there. And the quality of data and the amount of data will only come if institutions are mature and data is readily available and accessible. In Aramco, our strategic frameworks has three enablers to it: human capital, technology, and a few years back we introduced digital. And to drive focus on digitization, we've established Aramco Digital Company that oversees and is carved out to completely focus on this competitive advantage because it requires dedication of resources and a focus away from the typical thinking of organizations around digital. In addition to this, we're leveraging our venture capital fund to look for opportunities and acquire companies or invest in companies that can help us better and short leap in certain areas of the AI supply chain. The race is fast and resources are being put in place. Well, so far, it seems that the developed world has a huge competitive advantage over the global south. But the jury is still out on this. But again, I believe that the quality of institutions and access to data is one of the biggest impediments to the full adoption of AI.
Good. Rebecca, you should comment on that because you were talking about the tech frontiers. And as a tech company specializing in data and analytics, how do you manage the influx of all the data that's coming in, the sustainability measures today, and can we accelerate the transition as a result of AI?
Well, we should be able to accelerate the transition, and I actually a bit more optimistic about how the developing countries can be leapfrogging potentially to the developed countries somehow, like it happened with the landlines and the mobile phones back in the days. But the problem with the data is, as I said before, there is a massive availability of data in certain sectors and in certain areas, but there is a huge lack of data yet, even on basic things like very large private companies that are not reporting data at all because they don't actually collect the data yet. So one of the important parts is sometimes you have to just go to the basic data collection. So you can and you can definitely use algorithms to do those estimations. You don't need to hire consultants anymore, as I said, once per year, and have an army of consultants put in the organization. Because right now you can use copilots to explain to your workforce, because that's one of the issues as well, that the workforce many times is not aware of how to estimate sustainability, how to estimate certain data. Now with Gen AI, you can help train your workforce and help doing that data collection in a more efficient way, right? So all in all, I believe that we're going to be seeing that acceleration. As I said, the important piece is that it happens across industries in the same way, and it happens across countries in a way that makes the developing countries leapfrog to the developed country situation. But as much as I am also optimistic, I hope it's not just hype, because we have seen similar hype in the past with other topics. We were just mentioning that before, and hopefully the push keeps going on and the implementation keeps going on.
Good.
And doesn't stop here.
If I may just pull
Yeah,
up the data.
good.
I mean,
We'll bring Angela back in.
A combined cycle plant has over 1,200 sensors and constantly emitting data, as your plants do. A wind turbine has over 500 sensors, and we're tracking all manner of heat, vibrations, etc., all of that. What used to happen until maybe about a decade ago was all of that was stored on a nice IBM AS400 unit somewhere down in the basement, and now all of that's moving up into the cloud.
Oh.
And all of that's moving up into the cloud, at least with GE and many of the other OEMs, in format, in data lakes, in data structures which allow then algorithms and machine learning, et cetera, to happen. So I think at least the utility industry, the power industry, is awash with data. The difference now is what do we do with that data? And I think there the advances around machine learning, the advances are now just connecting the dots and recognizing the patterns. That's really in the last, I think, decade crept up. We're just getting better and better and better at it. And so I think the data availability is happening. It's just what you do with that data. How do you take actionable insights? And that's really how do you have the tools? How do you provide the insights? What do companies and managements and plant operators do
with it.
That's really now where we are seeing the impact with companies like Aramco, the impact companies like GE, our customers, Saudi Electric, for example, here, and even down into emissions data. I mean, we have SEMs which are constantly tracking what we're putting out. We're looking at the fuel going in. We're looking at everything that's coming out of the stack. And I think all of that is now beginning to happen. The next stage of that is when you start to do simulations, when you start to do digital twins, when you start to do planning, when you start to look at, well, what if I do this, the scenario planning, and that's where those insights are coming from that give you strategic decision making as to what you should do based on the data that you have.
Angela, you were talking about the power couple, AI and energy. What do you mean by that? And the role of the World Energy Council in bridging those, do you think?
Well, I'm going to disagree with the acceleration. Go on, let's have a little bit of grit. So for two things, right? We tend to think of energy and AI as the new power couple. But we have to remember there's always three of us in this relationship. So where's the third? The sustainability bit, right? Anybody heard of extreme weather? Anybody worried about climate change impacts? Anybody worried what that's going to do? Let's just take the nuclear, tripling up nuclear. Let's remember there were 3 1-in-100-year storms in France last year. Where are you going to get the water for all the nuclear power stations? We've got floods in Brazil, 20 million people on the roof, followed by droughts. Hydro's not working. People are having to buy more oil and gas. So one of the third in this relationship is Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And we've got this competition between market forces and Mother Nature. The other is the speed of change. Are we able to keep up with the speed of change? Or do we have a mental health crisis going on in the world already? We can go faster.
Now I wasn't expecting that angle, but go ahead.
There you go. So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you know, when we think of technology hype, the reason it's hype is because we think always within the flow that we want to get going. But the detours and the disruptors are things that are outside that. So I have no doubt that AI will have a transformative effect within the supply side of energy. But it's the demand side that's going to be the disruptor. It's Mother Nature that's going to be the disruptor. It's mental health that's going to be the disruptor of this acceleration.
Well, can I follow up with you on that? Because in the previous panel that we were looking at building a sustainable and resilient energy system, and you've talked about not a transition, but transitions.
Yeah.
I mean, Nasser, the CEO, said transition 2.0. It's moving quickly because we have a demand surge very likely coming, and the UNFCCC this week was saying we're looking at 2.8 to 3.1 by the end of the century if we don't accelerate the transition. So how do we get it right, though?
Well, only 6% of people actually believe we'll make 1.5. The IPCC chairman says 2 degrees by, we're looking at 2 degrees, it would be a heroic effort.
By what's the timeline? Sorry, it's loud.
2050.
Yeah.
3 degrees by 2100, right? So there's some built-in hardwired effects on climate change already built into the system that we have to adapt to. And that's the reality. The reality is the AI might also change how we connect the dots in different ways. So multi, that's the story. Multi-resources, multiple pathways, multiple speeds, multiple technologies, multi. So you've got to connect the dots. And what AI might be able to help us connect the dots between is narratives, frameworks, and data in a very different way, maybe in a smarter way. But I'm going to come back to Jeffrey Sachs's opening comments. We need human intelligence, not just artificial intelligence.
Touché.
What's your view on this, Fahad, what it does to demand? Am I correct in saying, you know, in the time that you've been in energy, you've never seen somebody say, wow, 26% increase in electric demand in 6 years? It's a hell of a lot, right?
And I think the AI will offer a paradigm shift both on the supply side and the demand side. And we're seeing this as we speak right now. In Aramco, for example, we take pride in our low carbon and methane intensity. And we've been squeezing every opportunity to reduce this. And now with AI, our ability to monitor emissions, our ability to address emissions has greatly enhanced. Through satellite images of some of the flares, we can understand from the many images that AI platforms can look at what is being flared, and for how long it has been flared, and how can you address it. All of a sudden, you find yourself with a plethora of opportunities by just looking at your business and operations through the digital lens. On the demand side, and the ability to reduce efficiency using smart meters, smart sensors will be greatly enhanced. And with the use of 5G, these sensors are much cheaper and can be installed in many places where demand side management, which holds a huge opportunity, can be greatly enhanced. I'm an optimist, and we're seeing as we speak the opportunities and the benefits that AI is bringing. All what it takes is having the multidisciplinary teams, people who are on the technical side of that operation with the data analysts and scientists and the financiers to come and develop these use cases and drive their implementation.
Good. We only have 3 minutes left, so I want you to articulate the biggest risk or opportunity from AI for the energy sector. And Angela, I'll start with you because you said, what will AI mean for the whole new generation of leadership? What does that mean for the energy sector if you want to apply it there?
So I think we're moving into an era where we talk about the end of incrementalism. Everything's speeding up, it's going exponential. So we have to have a leadership mindset that actually shifts. This is very difficult in human terms. So we have to start thinking about a leadership mindset that manages for things that happen suddenly everywhere all at once. I think there was a film title around that thing. So we're used to gradual change, things going fast or slow, but sudden requires us to organize differently for resilience and emergence. And I think that's going to be a big leadership shift.
Great. Rebecca, your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, as an entrepreneur, I want to be an optimist, and I believe there is a big opportunity with AI in the energy sector to use the algorithms to measure, understand accountability linked to the sustainability point that Angela was mentioning, and also optimizing the energy and the resources given this high increase in demand that is coming.
Good. Nomi, I'm going to finish with Fahad. Go ahead. What are your thoughts on this?
Look, I'll go back to man, machine, and nature, right? How do we do what our manual jobs easier, quicker, faster, with better insights? How do we get our machines to run more optimally, more efficiently, longer periods between downtimes? And I think the biggest thing, back to your point about nature, the power systems are the biggest dynamic systems. The better we get at closely matching demand and supply while trying to solve for a particular subset of emissions is where the art of possibility lies in the future. So
our system's quite rudimentary that way, right?
Still very rudimentary.
It says you think about it from the house, from the production field to the house, it's just not measured as well as it should be.
So when you start getting, there's so much room for us to grow to have that precise balancing without waste, without renewable curtailment, without plants running less efficiently, and so on, and building out grids that will enable. How do you orchestrate that whole system when you have EVs and you have prosumers and you have intermittency and you have old plants that still need to be kept on and new nuclear that needs to be brought on and whatnot? I think that's a big, huge open area where AI will help accelerate.
Yeah. It's funny, I'm originally from California. As a G5 economy, it always surprises me. They have rolling blackouts when it gets too hot. You know, it's like, how's that possible with all that tech demand? Your final thoughts, Fahad?
So AI is definitely holding a huge promise, but like everything else, it comes with risks. I believe access to chips is a big risk area for many of the potential players. With the advancement of AI, cyber attacks could also increase. And the race between protectors of IT systems and attackers of IT system will be decided by who owns the encryption, and a lot of the encryption comes from access to some of these chips. That's a risk that we see going forward.
And you're involved with the Global Cybersecurity Forum as one of the founding partners because you take the risk seriously is the point.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like the more you put of your stuff on the internet and the cloud, the more you're exposed. You have to do this in a very controlled way. Not every data can be put on these public clouds. You have to restrict some of your data within your own closed networks. And you have to continuously test your reliability and cybersecurity measures, because the expectations are for a lot of these cyber attacks to increase with time.
Great. It's a wonderful panel. I have to say, because we went from hype a year ago in these discussions, right, to the real concrete nature of what the potential is. Always a pleasure. Thanks for bringing your thought leadership. Rebecca, nice to meet you for the first time. Fahad, I don't know how many different corners of the world we've been together, but I always appreciate your insights. And Nomi, nice to meet you for the first time.
Nice to meet you as well.
Can we give them a nice round of applause? Thanks very much.